Hello, hello, and welcome back to the 5 Foot Strong podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Gerlock, and if this is your first time listening, welcome. And if you are a returning listener, welcome back. We are all strong here, and we have a very positive vibe, and I love it. And this weekend was the WNBA tip-off, which is kind of cool. And I love the rise in popularity in professional women's sports. And so that's what I kind of want to talk about a little bit today. As a girl growing up, I played sports from as far as I can remember. I was not that kind of girl who danced or did gymnastics. I remember playing t-ball from really, really little, maybe 4. Then I played softball for a long time. Then I played hardball in a men's league until boys were not so nice to being the only 1 or 2 girls in the league. So I got out of that and switched to a women's league. But I love sports. I am a tomboy at heart. I love the camaraderie you have during sports. My Coming from somebody who has an older brother who's very passionate about sports, I became that sibling who went to every hockey game and every baseball game. So I got really into it. I loved, I'm from Toronto, so my family's a Toronto Maple Leafs family. We are Toronto diehards for the Toronto Blue Jays, Raptors. But what I love right now, what's going on is growing up, watching, the Sportsnet or ESPN. I never got to see like real professional women on TV. And so I never really thought that that was an option. Listen, I was on my high school basketball team for a couple years. I played hockey for 3 years, ice hockey for 3 years. I competitive swam, which was really tough. I got up to a blue belt in Taekwondo. I used to do ski lessons. I've tried everything. To be a young girl who loves sports, there are so many barriers that if you want to do this as a profession, triple the amount that men have to go through. And men have to go through a lot of barriers to get to professional leagues. But women, it's so hard, and they don't even get to that level. So if whatever teams are going to get more ad revenue, they'll put on and they'll play. And women's sports for a long time didn't get that ad revenue like men did. And so it wasn't there's so many different barriers, not even talking about this disparagement in women's pay, but it really, you got to love what you do. You got to be passionate. And as a woman in sports, it's kind of cool to see the rise of the WNBA and players like Caitlyn Clarke and players like Paige Buchner and Asia Wilson. And I'm really passionate. I think it's fabulous because I was that young girl who stopped doing sports because of the barriers. I remember I stopped playing hockey in a women's league because women got different times, and they got the worst time ice hockey times. So the men got prime rink time and the women got whatever's left. And it was usually random times like a Sunday afternoon or, a Wednesday night. Or I remember I had practices 7 a.m. Saturday morning once. And boys don't have those. It was just so different. I remember I stopped playing hardball with the boys in a men's league because they would like the pitcher would intentionally try to hit me. And I'm like, come on. Like, they're so scared of a 5 foot little girl, like, just wanting to have fun and play with my friends' sports. It just got to the point that it took the love that I had for sports away from me. So when I see now that these, like, I turn on Sportsnet or I turn on ESPN and they're actually playing women's professional sports, I think that's so cool for that young girl who wants to succeed in sports and just needs someone to inspire to be, and inspire that if that girl can do it, so can I. And growing up, I saw Serena and Venus were probably the biggest female athletes growing up that would get airtime on sports channels. And still, I do believe, don't quote me on this, but I do believe that female tennis players are still the most paid female athletes that there are. There's such a huge disparity in women's pay when it comes to men. So it's really hard to make it a profession. And that's why you see, like, even a lot of WNBA players will play off seasons in a different country like Russia so that they can actually make a living on what they love. But I really love that women's sports are starting to get airtime on, Sportsnet, and I said ESPN and all that stuff. And, with leagues like the WNBA, the National Women's Soccer League, the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League, they're all getting it's having this rise of popularity, which is great. And so you're actually seeing a lot of professional women's sports. Also, you're seeing expansions of women's teams. I love that this next generation of girls who are tomboys like me are going to be able to sit with their father or brother and turn on ESPN and see women out there, doing their thing and, knowing that it is possible. If you love to play tennis and you see Serena, I remember, like, you see Serena, you're like, oh, one day I could be Serena, or, one day you could be you. But it's just a really cool thing to see in the last couple of years, the rise of professional women's sports and these leagues that are coming up that are getting awesome sponsorships, awesome endorsements, awesome minority owners. They're getting all this buzz around it. And even like tip-off was this weekend. WNBA tip-off was this weekend. And Caitlyn Clarke's game was like sold out, and there was like a 6-hour wait before tip-off even started, just for her gear. There was so much buzz around her, and I think that's fabulous for these young girls to look up to somebody like Caitlyn Clarke and say, "Oh, one day I could become like that." And I don't even think these athletes realize what they're doing for this future generation, because I was that young girl wanting to see more women in sports and realizing, I loved sports, but I was one of the very few of my friends to actually like sports. In high school, I think 2 years I played on the basketball team, and then I realized I'm way too short. I'm 5 feet tall, so that doesn't work out. I played hockey for 3 years. As I said, I stopped because of the times. It was, women just, they got the bottom of the barrel when it came to rink time. So I found that really tough. And I give props. Like, I love to see the growth of all these players like Caitlyn Clarke. She's much younger than I am. So it's just really cool. I wanted this when I was growing up. So I'm happy that the girls who are into sports are watching these young ladies kill it at their games, working on their physical fitness, working on their mental health, and being mental health advocates, talk about Simone Biles. Simone Biles is considered one of the greatest Olympians and gymnasts of all time. She's a few inches shorter than I am, but she is 5 foot strong for sure because she has become a mental health advocate, which I think is really important. She has she's been very open about her struggles with anxiety and panic attacks. And it shows that, even these athletes who work so hard to become, get to the peak of their game. And when Simone walked away from the 2020 Tokyo Olympics to prioritize her mental health and well-being, showed that, mental health is real and you're not alone. And I thought that was such a powerful, powerful message. She's openly shared about her anxiety and panic attacks, but she's also talked about her ongoing trauma from that sexual assault lawsuit, from that Larry Nassar abuse scandal, which has led to her depression, anxiety. So for her to be real about, on this podcast, we talk about physical and mental health. And yes, maybe her physical health was at peak, but her mental health was off. So if your mental health is off, it doesn't matter how great in shape you are. You're not going to get to the top of your game. And when you're at the Olympics, you need to be at the top of game. You need to have strong mental health. And one of Simone's messages that she talks about is it's okay to not be okay and to seek help when needed. And for someone at her level as an athlete, for all these young girls looking at her, I think that is such an amazing thing that she used her platform to show that she is just like one of all of us. Mental health is so real. It is just like our physical health. We have to prioritize it. And the fact that somebody like Simone Biles in her position talks about it openly is going to help a lot of these people who are looking up to her maybe relate and open up and maybe, save a life and add some positivity in this world with all this negativity. I think Simone Biles is an excellent role model. I included her in my book in a quote because she really encompasses what it is to be 5 foot strong. Yes, she is at the top of her game. She's had a lot of barriers, but she's on top of her game and she's open about her mental health, which it makes her an even stronger individual. Each day is an opportunity for us, no matter who you are, to work on your physical and mental health. And sometimes if you're an athlete, your physical health is perfectly fine, but maybe your mental health needs to be worked on a little bit. And that is okay to admit. That is important to admit, to even elevate your game. Because if your head is not in the game, I love that Zac Efron High School Musical. Get your head in the game. You need to get your head in the game. And if your mental health is not good, your head will not be in the game. You will not be able to achieve wherever your goal is, especially at that level of the Olympics, especially at that level in all these professional sports. So the fact that she's a woman, the fact that she's opening up about her mental health, she's breaking so many barriers, and she is proof that height doesn't measure heart. I think, don't quote me on this, but I believe her height is 4'8". And so she is at her peak level. She has made such a difference in the world. Her physical capabilities are incredible. And the fact that she's open about her mental health is game changer. That's the game changer. And that is what differentiates her as an athlete from many other athletes. I talked about the rise of Caitlyn Clarke and Paige Buchner and all these up-and-coming WNBA athletes. And the WNBA right now, will soon be one of the most valuable leagues in women's sports. It is the most popular women's sports league right now, and last year a total of 54 million viewers tuned in to watch the regular season, almost doubled the number that watched in 2022. So that's just showing how the popularity and the growth is, especially in the WNBA with these female icons that one day and all these young girls are looking up to, which I think is so awesome. And they're all strong and beautiful in their own unique and beautiful ways. I was watching the Call Her Daddy podcast with Trinity Rodman. And the last name probably gets people. It is Dennis Rodman's daughter. But besides the being Dennis Rodman's daughter, she is a star. She is a female athlete. She is 5 foot strong. She has made she has paved her own way. She plays for the Washington Spirit in the National Women's Soccer League, and she plays for the U.S. Olympic team. She was selected by the Spirit in the 2021 draft at age 18, making her the youngest draftee in the NWSL, which is the National Women's Soccer League, history at the time. She also won this championship and the Rookie of the Year in her first year. So what I loved about listening to this interview with Alex Cooper and Trinity Rodman is of course she has a dad who was on the Chicago Bulls. She talks about how she had a terrible relationship with him. But the fact is this girl had skill and she used it and she had a dream. And now she plays for the U.S. Olympic team. She got brand deals. She is one day some girls are just gonna say, that's Trinity Rodman. Not that that's Dennis Rodman's daughter. And that's what I think is so cool, is she's carving a path for herself, not in her dad's footsteps, and making the popularity of the National Women's Soccer League. I also saw that, talking about Call Her Daddy, that Alex Cooper, I believe, just signed as she's a minority owner in one of the teams, which I think is awesome. These young women are bringing sports back. And I'm in my 30s now, but these girls who are looking up and turning on their TVs when their dads and their brothers are watching ESPN and they see girls is just so cool to me, as that girl who never got to see females on ESPN or on Sportsnet, wherever on these sports channels. So I think I'm impressed by, Trinity Rodman, Simone Biles, Caitlyn Clarke, Asia Wilson, Paige Buchner. Back then there was Venus and Serena, and they did lead. They had the media's attention, but there's a rise. Maybe women's rights around the world aren't always great, but the rise right now in professional women's sports in North America, I think, is an excellent example for girls who maybe were like me, who, wanted to watch sports and maybe was athletic and wanted to explore that as a passion, and they couldn't because of the barriers around it and because it wasn't accepted. I was one of the only ones of my friends that was playing sports outside of school. So the fact that these women took it to the next level, I'm inspired and I'm motivated by them. So I think it's just really cool to see, because I think it'll continue. And I think that you'll see even young girls and boys out wearing a Caitlyn Clarke jersey. I think you'll see, the next I don't know if Simone Biles is competing, but cheering Simone Biles on. She is one of the greatest Olympians, and she's 4'8". I'm inspired by her. These are all strong women that, had a dream and proved the world wrong a little bit. And that shows that women do have what it takes to be competitive in a competitive space. Some women are not meant to be, or girls are not meant to be dancers and in ballet and in gymnastics growing up. They want to be on the baseball field. They want to be on the ice rink because it gives you that sense of confidence, that sense of self confidence is where the strength comes from. Being confident in yourself, believing in yourself, and sports, that's what it's all about. It's proving to yourself that you can do something. It's proving to yourself that there's always room to evolve, there's always room for growth, which is so cool. So I love this rise in popularity in women's sports as that young girl in me. I never thought I'd see. I'd turn on the TV and see, a WNBA game. It wasn't popular, or it wasn't, the media didn't want it. There was no money there. There was no ad money. And I even believe I was listening to The View the other day, and I believe Whoopi Goldberg is creating a whole women's sports media network, which is amazing. Like this is impacting the way women should see sports and incorporate sports into their lives because it does help a lot situations. Like it builds self-confidence, it builds self-worth. If you do team sports, it helps with working with other people together. There are so many benefits, and talk about, and then your physical health. Your physical health will be amazing at that time. So I think sports, the fact that this rise in the media and professional sports is only going to make this next generation and these next young girls. I can't wait to see these next female athletes. I can't wait to watch them on any sports channel because I think it will be so much more common. I'm actually going for my birthday, which is in a couple of weeks. I'm going to my first WNBA game. I'll be going for my 33rd birthday, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited actually because I'm going with my mom, and she always actually embraced me to take on sports. She knew I wasn't the girl for dance, but she knew I wanted to try, hockey. She knew I wanted to try, baseball, and I really enjoyed that. So she explored those passions. So me and my mom are going to the Las Vegas Aces versus the Los Angeles Sparks game. And I'm really excited. I've never been to a professional women's game before, but I think it is so poetic, and I'm so happy to see these women athletes, and they're all strong because I know the barriers that they've had to get through to get to where they are. And that's what takes strength. Any athlete has barriers to get to where they are, not just physically, but mentally as well. But the fact that we have to add gender into this as well, and the fact that the pay disparagement and women aren't supposed, like the old way of like women aren't supposed to be in sports. You know what? Like this is 2025. I love this. This is what we should be seeing. We should be seeing female athletes on our screens. We should be showing young girls, you should be in that soccer, on that soccer team, or you're interested in basketball, go for it. Not every girl has to be a dancer, which, I've always embraced as being different in that sense. Is I loved being in sports. I wasn't very good, but I loved being a part of it. I loved learning new skills. I now at 33, I would say I'm like quite athletic. I would say I could get onto a pair of skates. I could shoot a ball, whatever. I could hit a baseball. It has made me confident in myself in different ways that I never thought I'd be interested in. But the fact that these young girls and are making it to a professional level, making a career out of it, making it an income, and inspiring the next generation. That's what these women are strong. There is nothing more inspiring than that because they're doing what they love and they're inspiring people. And that is, that is what they are meant for. And I'm so excited to enjoy the WNBA. Toronto has a new female team, the Toronto Tempo, which will be in the WNBA in 2026. And then Toronto, for all those Toronto people out there, Toronto Scepters is the female team, the women's team in the Professional Women's Hockey League. And you should check them out because we got to help these women athletes. The more you watch them, the more companies want to spend money on these teams, and the more we could get them on TV, the more exposure we get to them, and the better it is for the next generation. So that's what strength is. That's what I wanted to talk about today. I love this rise in women's sports, and for all those young girls who are listening, or anybody, is believe in yourself, because you're always going to have doubters and you're always going to have haters. But if you have a dream, chase it. And that's how I'm going to lead this podcast is, just explore those passions, do what you love, live your happiest, healthiest, and strongest life. Remember, whether you are 5 feet tall like myself or 7 feet tall, we are all strong in our own unique and beautiful ways. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share, and have a fabulous day. Stay strong.